Hey ladies and gentlemen, Safin here from Redolessence and welcome back to another video. I hope this video finds you well and I hope you're staying in good health. And in today's episode, I'm going to be ranking 10 Parfums de MARLY fragrances according to my preference, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin the video, I do want to mention that this video is not sponsored in any way. The managing director for the company Parfums de MARLY actually happens to be a very close friend of mine. I have a lot of friends in the industry and I have done a lot of brand ambassadorships for Parfums de MARLY in the past. As I'm sure you know, with the global pandemic going on, a lot of that foot traffic has been mitigated. And so a lot of these brands are trying to acclimate and accommodate to these recent changes to do what they can on a virtual level. And my friend Yvonne Jacqueline came up with a fantastic idea, which was to do an Instagram masterclass. It's going to take place on April 25th on the brand's Instagram account at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So all of the information is going to be down below if you want to look into it a little bit more. But there's a $50 registration fee. That $50 will allow you to participate in the masterclass. You will receive 2 discovery sets. So the men's discovery set, which includes 5 fragrances, and the women's, which includes 5 fragrances. And that money can be used towards a future purchase on the brand's website, which I think is a really cool idea. It allows you to interact, learn a little bit more about these fragrances, have this little behind the scenes inside look sort of a deal. So I think it's really cool, and kudos and props to Yvonne Jacqueline, my good friend of many years, for coming up with this amazing idea. So those 10 fragrances, the 5 men's and the 5 women's, are precisely the ones that I'm going to be talking about in this video. So once again, if you're interested in registering for the virtual masterclass, I'm going to be there as well. I'm not going to be on camera, but I will be in the chat leaving comments. So once again, all of the information is down below, so definitely make sure to check it out. So we have 5 men's fragrances. They are Herod, Pegasus, Layton, Percival, and Galloway. And then we have 5 women's fragrances. They are Safanad, Meliora, Athalia, Delina, and Darcy. I don't have the bottles in front of me because I am in quarantine and I shoot my videos in a different location. I would really prefer to not visit the people living there, which includes my grandparents, both of whom are 88 years old. I feel fine, but I just don't want to take that risk. So let's go ahead and start with the women's fragrances, and I'm going to rank them in order of my preference, so I'm going to leave my favorite for last. But the first one that I want to talk about is actually called Darcy. Now, Darcy is a really wonderful, sweet fragrance. It is a little bit powdery. I found that a lot of the women's offerings from the brand can tend to be a little bit powdery. So if that's not your thing, I would certainly recommend that you sort of stay away from those particular releases. There's actually another one in this list that spotlights a note of iris, and I find that fragrance to be a little bit powdery as well. But in the case of Darcy, I like that that powderiness is actually offset by some sweet notes. And so there isn't one specific ingredient that is being referenced for giving off that sweet vibe. It just sort of says sweet notes on Fragrantica, and I do own all of the fragrances in this list, so I 100% completely agree and endorse with what is being said about these fragrances in terms of that note breakdown. I find it to be pretty transparent. So it does have the sweet notes, but then it also has a patchouli note in there as well, that I think that earthiness kind of makes it a little bit more unisex, but my honest opinion, it's still feminine leaning. But again, you know, if you're watching this woman as a video, just letting you know that I actually do prefer that fragrance. I like it. I think it's very nice. However, there are 4 other fragrances that I'm not going to say are better, but I actually prefer to smell on a woman a little bit more. And these are all, by the way, fragrances that are included in that discovery set if you are interested in participating in the masterclass. So Darcy, wonderful fragrance, nice touch of sweetness, a little bit of earthiness as well. And then it sort of becomes a little bit powdery as it dries down, but it also has some floral components in there to keep it feminine as well. The next fragrance that I want to talk about is Safanad. Now, Safanad is a really wonderful orange blossom sort of a fragrance, but I feel like it's a nice balance of the orange blossom and the vanilla. Just keep in mind that when it comes to the use of that orange blossom, you are going to have that floral component inherently attached to the fragrance, but I think it has enough of that vanilla to offset the floral nuances of the fragrance. So there are actually 2 fragrances for women in this list that I think can be pulled off quite easily by a man. and this is one of them. I do think that there's another one in this list which can be pulled off by a guy and a little bit with more comfort, and so I'm going to save that fragrance until later on in this video. But Safanad is a wonderful orange blossom sort of a scent. It just screams spring. It's the best fragrance from this list, in my opinion, to wear during the springtime because it's just very bright and fulfilling. It has that orangey nuance. It's a little bit floral, but then it has that nice sort of undertone, that smooth undertone of sweetness that I think makes it a very appealing and very appropriate fragrance for the springtime. The next fragrance that I want to talk about in this list is Athalia. Athalia is another really wonderful women's fragrance, and I sort of ranked the fragrances in this order because I'm thinking to myself, not necessarily what would I like to wear, but also what would I like to smell on like my wife or a woman or something like that. And Athalia is a really nice iris dominant fragrance. Now, it's actually a combination of iris and orange blossom. So you're gonna get that clean nuance from the iris. It's a little powdery. It doesn't smell lipsticky at all. I know a lot of times when we think of iris, we think of like lipstick or a cosmetic bag. That's really not what I'm getting when it comes to this fragrance. It's a little bit more on the clean, white, floral side, a little powdery as well, but I like that it also has that orange blossom in there to sort of offset the iris. So it's not a pure iris fragrance like Dior Homme or Tuberose One by Histoire de Parfum. It's actually a really nice balance of these two ingredients, and I actually prefer it over the last two fragrances that I spoke about in this list. So the second to last, or I should say the number 2 fragrance when it comes to women's fragrances from Parfum de Marly that I would love to smell on a woman, it's actually called Meliora. And I love Meliora because it has a lot of unisex properties about it, but it's such an intriguing fragrance because you have these red berries, you have cassis, you have black currant. So you have these fruity nuances, which I think make it totally appropriate for both a man and a woman. Yes, keep in mind, it is going to be about 60% feminine, but I like how it has a nice balance of these sort of fruity ingredients that you would expect to smell in a woman's perfume, but then it also has this masculine edge about it too, which I kind of like. In terms of smelling it on a woman, it doesn't smell masculine in any way. Like I said, it still leans more feminine, but it sort of has this unique, enigmatic nature that I haven't really encountered in another fragrance. So I do find this one to be super unique. I mean, it's a really standout fragrance, and I do think it's one of the brand's best. But when it comes to my number 1 fragrance, I think you guys all know what it is. This is one that I've actually mentioned on my channel before many times, and I'm not going to create a distinction between the original and the exclusive version. I think they're both fantastic. And this one is Delina. Now, Delina is, I think, their best DNA in a fragrance. Cassily is fantastic. Delina exclusive I actually prefer over the original, but the original is really what started it all, and I think everybody should have some sense of familiarity with it. You have the rose, you have the lychee, you have the peony, you have that floral nuance about it. It's a little creamy as well. There's something just ultra likable about this fragrance. It's highly intoxicating. My wife has a bottle of it, which is actually my bottle, and I share with her. I don't wear it, of course, but my wife wears it ever so rarely. But my sister-in-law absolutely loves that fragrance. So she's actually stolen my first bottle, and I had to go out there and acquire a second bottle. But Delina is such a beautiful fragrance. What it looks like is what it smells like. You have that really bright, sort of vibrant pink bottle. It's such a gorgeous fragrance, and it's one that I'm gonna have in my collection just as a benchmark scent and as a reference point for my entire life. I love the way that it smells. It's one of the best women's fragrances released to date. So with that said, let's discuss the 5 fragrances that are going to be available in the men's discovery set, which is available for purchase. And like I said, that amount is redeemable towards a future purchase of anything on the official website. Again, all information is going to be down below. And these are all fragrances that I own, of course. And I suppose the one that I'll put in the number 5 spot is Galloway. So Galloway is a really wonderful, fresh, clean, abstract, citrusy sort of men's scent. And it has that abstract quality to it in kind of the same way that Silver Mountain Water by Creed is abstract. I'm not saying that they smell the same. They absolutely do not. I think a lot of times people might make that subconscious association because they're both in white bottles. Silver Mountain Water is said to have this inky quality about it, which I kind of get. It has the tea, it has some fruity nuances in there as well, the citrus too. And this one kind of has that similar vibe going on with the citrus and the clean nuances, and it's just a very versatile scent. I would say it's probably the most versatile fragrance in this list right now. probably with the exception of one other fragrance, which I'm going to discuss a little higher up in this list. But Galloway is a really wonderful fragrance. It's what I like to consider a dumb reach. So when you're not sure what else to wear from the brand, this is one that if you put it on, you're going to feel good, you're going to smell good, you're not going to offend anybody. And I personally really enjoy wearing this one. I do like the lasting power of it as well. It's not a beast mode performer like a Castor or a Carlisle or one of these like Herod or something like that. But for a fresh scent and the type of DNA that it uses, it lasts a long time and I'm satisfied with it. The next fragrance that I want to talk about is Percival. So Percival is the fragrance that I was alluding to earlier. Percival, in my opinion, is the most versatile fragrance from Parfums de Marly. Yes, you have Galloway. Yes, you have Pegasus. Layton too, albeit it's a little bit more on the sweet side. So I think a lot of people would want to wear it in like a date or clubbing scenario. But Percival, you have the lavender, you have that icy sort of geranium thing that's going on in there. It's just very fresh. You have that bountiful citrus in the opening. Not as strong, I would say, as like Sedley, for example, which is one of my favorites, but it's not available in the Discovery set. But this is just a wonderful fragrance. It's very classy, it's gentlemanly, it's masculine, which I think this one is far more masculine than like Pegasus. And I would even go as far as saying it's far more masculine than Layton. Because whenever you enter sweet territory or fruity territory, these are also ingredients that you can expect to smell in a woman's perfume. Not to say that these men's fragrances smell feminine in any way. I don't think they do. But from a classical genre standpoint, I do think that this one has something really special going on in it. I actually really enjoy this one. Percival is a wonderful fragrance. The blue bottle, really nice stuff, and I enjoy wearing it a lot. The next fragrance that I want to discuss is Layton. Now, just for the record, I prefer Layton Exclusive. Layton Exclusive is much darker. It has this sort of coffee richness in the base. It's a little bit thicker, more resinous, and more enigmatic, I would say. More of a puzzling scent where you really have to, try to figure out what's in there. And of course, my nose is geared towards those more complex fragrances, but Layton is such a successful DNA, and it's no surprise that it's one of the brand's best-selling fragrances out there. Now, Layton has a little bit of that vanillic sweetness going on in there. Like I mentioned earlier, it's more of like a date night clubbing sort of a fragrance, but I think that there's also versatility in the sweetness. In my opinion, it's not as versatile as something like Pegasus or Percival or even Sedley. But I think that if you're looking for something that smells a little bit more fun, a little bit more youthful, but also conveying a certain level of confidence about it, definitely check out Layton. I mean, I really enjoy Layton. I think it's a really wonderful sort of vanilla tonka bean kind of a fragrance. And if you haven't yet tried it, maybe use this Discovery set as an opportunity to check it out. Now, the second fragrance that I want to talk about is actually one of the first Parfums de Marly fragrances that I fell in love with. And so I've decided to put it in the number 2 spot. And this is Pegasus. I really enjoy Pegasus for a few different reasons. One, it reminds me of a lot of other almond heavy fragrances that I absolutely love, and as an almond dominant scent, it's one of my favorite ingredients, and I like that it's done in not this sort of bitter way, but more of like a slightly sweet and creamy way, which I think is something that is kind of hard to achieve with that particular note. But it has the sweetness, it has the vanilla, it has the creaminess, it's a little bit smooth and a little bit clean in terms of, I guess, the synesthetic vibe that I get from it. It kind of comes across as this creamy beige white sort of a fragrance, kind of like the jacket that I'm wearing right now. It's really the mindset that it puts me in, but I think it's a wonderful fragrance for a few different reasons. One, I'm intrigued by the smell. Two, I think it's a smell that will always do well. People will find it appealing in the air. I think despite the fact that it's marketed for men, I find it to be rather unisex, and I do think that it's a DNA from the brand that has proven itself throughout the years. And so I really enjoy Pegasus, and for that reason, I would put it in the number 2 spot. And the number 1 fragrance from the ones that are available in the Discovery set that I would say is my favorite, of course, if you remember the fragrances that I listed off earlier in this review, you already know what it is, and it's by far Herod. So Herod is a fragrance that I purchased with my own money many years ago. I first discovered the brand of Parfums de Marly, I think back in 2011, late 2011, when I made a trip to Oswald in New York City and Manhattan. And Herod is just a fragrance that I fell in love with. You have that tobacco richness about it. It's creamy. You have a honeyed sweetness about it as well. It's just such a decadent, full of life, thick, complex, rich, enigmatic, sensual, and mysterious sort of a fragrance that has all of these components piled into it, and just everything about it, the longevity, the lasting power, the intrigue about it is just such a gorgeous, amazing fragrance. I mean, I can't speak highly enough about it. You guys know that if I had to pick a favorite from the brand, it would 100% be Carlisle. Carlisle is a fragrance that I have fallen in love with many times over, and every single time that I put it on, I say to myself, man, I made the right decision today. Herod is a close second. I think that if Carlisle is a little bit outside of your budget, because I think it's in the $350 territory, and I know it's available from what I remember in just the one size. So if you're looking for something a little bit more affordable, my goodness, I love Herod. It's one of my favorites, and I hope you guys have the opportunity to join the managing director, Yvonne Jacqueline, on his masterclass. Once again, make sure to register by April 17th. All of the information is down below. Again, this is not a sponsored video. I'm really just trying to help my friend of many years. I have many friends in the industry that are really hurting during these times because, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of that foot traffic is not there anymore. So you don't have that discovery. And so people are sort of relying on doing things on a virtual basis. And I'm just letting you know that I am really happy and really proud of his ability to assimilate and acclimate during these very difficult times. So once again, the live masterclass will be on Instagram on April 25th at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure to tune in. I'm going to be there. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Much love to you for tuning in and sort of taking your mind off of these really weird things that are going on nowadays. But if you are new to this channel and you took something of value from this video, I would really appreciate it and support it if you could support this channel by clicking the red subscribe button. Sorry for me fumbling over my words there. I would really appreciate it, and it will sort of validate what I've been doing for the past 8 years. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love you guys. We'll see you next time.